couple of things have changed since 5 years ago when we launched, together with some of you, the Digital Agenda for Europe. The first thing I think is that 5 years ago, people said, oh, that should be nice to have. And people said, oh, you want to talk to stakeholders about that? Whereas now in 2015, it's natural that we should have it, and we're allowed to talk to stakeholders, and it's natural you should come. So I think the way in which we're doing business around digital has come a long way, and I think that the quality of the discussion and the warmth of the comments on the Twitter poll bears that out. The thing I'd like you to do after my few remarks as you leave is make sure you have one of these little paper cards, which is a reminder to you to remain in the conversation. So as was announced by Mr. Ansip at the beginning, the conversation continues. On Thursday, Mr. Oettinger is having a Twitter chat. So we're really interested in containing your thoughts today, but also continuing the debate. A few things that I've heard. I mean, the first thing is we still have the same good brand. So Connect is not just the name of a Directorate General, it's also what we need to do. And at the beginning, MEP Boni and Schwab were both saying we have to bring issues together, be holistic. And as Mr. Schwab said rather, I think bravely, if that means we have to forget about some national laws in order to have a Europe fit for purpose in the global internet age, so be it. So being willing to see the big picture and to accept the challenges that flow from that big picture are not easy challenges, but that's what we have to keep in mind. Think about something like spectrum. No smart Industry 4.0 motor industry will survive without joined up spectrum across Europe. But in terms of constitutional change, that's going to be one of the big challenges for the year ahead. The second thing we have to connect is data. And John Higgins gave us the challenge at the beginning, you know, where's the big, hairy, visible benchmark? And now, as Mr. Oettinger announced, and it's already out there, with DESI, D-E-S-I, you have a big, hairy data benchmark that you can look at to compare as a composite index country with country, to dig into the data, play with the graphs, and find out whether that tells you where you, in your region or country of Europe, needs to go. So, connections. Secondly, I've been, as I always am as a non-technologist, impressed by what technology can do on its own. Thank you very much. I think throughout the day, some of the examples that have been put out there around what technology can do remind us as officials and as policymakers that it may well be we just need to leave some space for technology. I mean, stuff which the techies understand. Tony Shortall mentioned at one stage, you know, VPN might be the answer to everything. Alan Graham's one-click licensing is a really interesting innovation, which I kept trying to find problems with, but I'm very interested to see where that will go. Despina Spanu saying if online dispute resolution is at the point of problem for a consumer, maybe that resolves a lot of the mistrust and frustration. So instead of getting blocked and locked out, we find a solution, or at least we find a conversation at the right point. And right through to some of the examples from the last panel, notably Carla's custom crafted skull. I mean, this is something we may need going forward. So giving space for technology, and I think underlying that is the challenge which several people put before us. Can we give that space so that startup entrepreneurs get an easier deal? Is there a way that you can have a passport that says, I'm a startup entrepreneur, or I'm inventing something new, and all the regulators go away? That's what we call the innovation principle. So conceptually, even people in the bureaucracy of Europe are thinking about it, but how do you stand it up? It's almost more difficult to conceive than that other thing, the precautionary principle. But we need it. People, the third point. I think that in the last session, we begin to get to the importance of what it means to be human in the digital age. And we saw that, I thought, a bit less than I had expected in the consumer panel. But people have real needs that the agenda we're now laying out have to meet. So get me online. I have no connectivity and I don't go on the internet regularly. 1 in 3 citizens. So if they could all be, at a click of a finger, brought online and given the basic skills, the online market grows by 50%. But we haven't done it. We've talked about inclusion for 5 years, so we have to seriously think about that. And what does it take? In one city I visited recently of 500,000 people, Liverpool, they have 58 municipal drop-in digitization hubs for individuals, families, school teachers, and NGOs. So 1 per 10,000 of the population. We don't have that sort of density of network of help available across Europe. So there's a postcode lottery about help for the disenfranchised 20–30%. Even if you're online, you need skills. So one of the Juncker College priorities is a skills strategy for Europe. Within it, the digital skills strategy, which Mr. Oettinger and we are working on, has to be a strong pillar, and we're ready to make it an early area of experiment. We've had the Grand Coalition beginning to network around these issues, but just as with inclusion, we talk about it, we have a vision, but we're not yet executing. And the third element there, which we talk about but don't yet quite achieve, and Zoran spoke about it right at the end, is digitizing entrepreneur mindsets, making it easier for people who know they're entrepreneurs and know the digital stuff is out there to get into the game. So people have lots of needs where we can help positively. And there might just be some stuff where people need help where the market won't, in the end, satisfactorily protect and encourage them. Again, Schwab mentioned one point, personal profiling driven price fixing. There is no price discovery in the online market anymore, and it's going down. So how do we deal with that? Can we give data dashboards the way that Orange, France Telecom, or even Facebook do, so that individuals can understand what my data is being used for, where it's going, and beyond that, give me some consent? Can we use e-commerce trust marks more? And finally, and again it came up in the last panel, can we use the Horizon 2020 vision of responsible innovation to build trust in the new stuff that's coming down the track? 2 other questions that I just want to touch on before I finish. The penultimate question is balance. There were several points throughout the day where we don't know the answer yet. What is our social preference as Europe in the digital age? How much copyright protection? How much access? How much support for creators? How much data protection, as our Latvian presidency colleague reminded us, and how much space for data-driven innovation? How much space for startups, and how much aversion to risk? And the last conundrum tabled by the last panel, what scope for standards to drive interoperability, and what scope for standards to drive closed gardens? So there are some difficult issues where there are no calculable single answers, and it's on those issues, and I may not have got the full list out there, that we will need real help for more detailed discussions to get the politics right in the next couple of months. But finally, because here we are in Brussels, what about Europe? I thought there was some really interesting points throughout the day. I mean, the first, again from Arnis, was how can we actually work together when we are 28 smart and proud nation states? I really like that, and on the National Day of the Presidency country, that's a very strong thing to say. That's the problem that Europe has to face, to reconcile ourselves with doing things together. And actually, the Industry 4.0 challenge is the same. As Mr. Oettinger said himself, we have Industry 4.0 in one country, we have catapults in another, we have different models in different countries. How do we join them together? Not to harmonize, because I don't think the Commission can do that, but to make sure that they're not overlapping, eating out of each other's muesli bowl. How can we make that work together? Secondly, can we be fast? That was something which I thought was really important. Where we don't need to act, we shouldn't act, but where we do need to act, we'd better get it done at internet speed and not over the next decade. That is a challenge which you might say you leave to the bureaucrats, but kindly encourage us to get it right. Is the European Council giving guidance? Is there a digital minister? Is there a digital high official, a really high official, coming regularly to Brussels the way they do for trade policy? What is our cycle time? And if there are some things that get to the policy-making market faster, regulations rather than directives, co-regulation rather than either, council decisions, can we use them instead of doing the same old, same old? So I think that the challenges for Europe there right at the end are really big ones. We can start tackling those here in Brussels. But for most of the rest, I have learned a lot today, but I don't think we've answered all the questions. Those are just my personal takeaways, and you will all have your own. The key, I think, is that my colleagues will be putting up a lot of this material in ways you can reflect on the website. Remember the little card. And we really do need your help. So tomorrow it's Copenhagen, Thursday it's on Twitter with Mr. Oettinger, and so on. We need your help every day to make this work. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.